Hello everyone, it's Tuesday and it's the 2nd of March. So welcome to March and welcome to spring. And I hope you're able to join me at lunchtime today, Tuesday lunchtime live. And if you're not able to join me live, thank you for watching me on Catch Up. And today I'm going to show you some more projects using the Butterfly Brilliance. I've got a nice card, a very pretty card to show you today, and a mystery gift which I'm going to save till last, and I won't be demonstrating but I will be talking to you about how to make it, and if time allows I may demonstrate some little bits and pieces. All will become very clear at the end. But first, as always, I'd like to say thank you for joining me and welcome to Lunchtime Live with Izzy Szczecinski. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and I'm Izzy's Crafty Bees. And yes, things that have made me happy this week. Hot cross buns. Woohoo! Hot cross buns are in the shops, and it would be rude not to test them, wouldn't it? So at the supermarket yesterday, I treated us to some hot cross buns with chocolate chips. Yay! Haven't tried them yet. I'm looking forward to toasting them and having them with some butter. And the other thing that made me really happy was the weather at the weekend. It was just glorious. I spent some time in the garden on Saturday afternoon, and on Sunday continued with the greenhouse construction saga. We have now completed constructing and glazing fully a large greenhouse for our next door neighbours. And it was a bit of a skill swap. We swapped our skills to help them out, and they're swapping some of their skills or their family skills to help us out with some other projects. So that was all good. It's finished, finally. Whoop! Oh yes, Jack is saying pegging the washing out too. Absolutely with you there. It's just so lovely to get the washing on the line. Although somebody was having a fire the other day when I got a line of towels out, so I had to bring them back in quickly. But we won't go there. It's fine. So just a reminder, I'm here every Tuesday unless I have a break, in which case I'll just point out that I'm not going to be appearing, and usually on a lunchtime, and if not, if I'm going to be able to do a more full longer session on an evening, then I will also advertise that. So let's crack on. I'm going to just spin the camera round and let's have a look. And we'll have a look at what we're doing. Let's spin you around and get you lined up. And just check my workspace is in view. It looks a little bit wonky. I think we're fairly straight there. Now I'll pop my glasses on, then I can see. Now I've just altered my camera angle slightly today. So I'm a little bit higher up. So I may end up just sitting down and crafting, but I'll just start as always by saying you can find me online. Please, if you want to shop with me direct and you don't live locally, use my online shop. This is also where you can join my team if you're interested in joining my team. If you do shop in March, I have a new host code. And I'll read that out because I printed that with some patterned paper underneath. So SBS QMD 7P. So stamping bees, stamp quickly, making delightful projects 7 days a week. SBS QMD 7P. Thank you. If you shop in March and your order is between £25 and £150, £149, I will send you a free gift if you use this host code. If your order tips to 150, please don't enter the host code. You will be prompted to place some free items using Stampin' Rewards, and the ordering system will guide you through that. You can find me across social media, and my link to my YouTube channel is on my Facebook page, and I'm now posting all of my Facebook lives direct onto my YouTube channel once I've completed them. So today I'm going to continue talking about the Butterfly Brilliance set of products that actually are available to you as customers from today. And I'm going to be showing you more about the stamp set and the dies and the paper. And just so that you understand what the new products are all about, the new products comprise of a stamp set and die set, available separately or as a bundle, and if you buy as a bundle you get the 10% discount. the new products also include some beautiful DSP Designer Series Pretty Patterned paper, which you're going to see more of in this session, and some wood grain effect speciality paper. And these two products are only available while the preview of these products is actually happening, and that is until the 3rd of May, until just before the new annual catalogue launches. The stamp set and the die set will actually be available for a whole year in the new annual catalogue, which starts at the beginning of May. But these two products will not be in the annual catalogue, so they are while stocks last. Okay, so that's a little reminder. And if you want the item numbers to order these, then you can click the link if you go to my online shop and it will tell you. Okay, so let's have a look at what we're going to make today. Now, I'm going to share with you this card that I made yesterday evening, and this is for my mother-in-law's birthday, which is coming up this weekend. And I enjoyed making it so much and really liked the card design so much, I thought I would case my own work, but I would swap out the flowers for butterflies. And the way I made this card was I used some Designer Series paper that's printed in grey, and I actually added colour using watercolour pencils and a blending pen. So I'm going to case this card, but using the butterfly stamp set. So what I've pre-prepared is a card base in Just Jade, and that's one of the colours in the Designer Series paper in the Butterfly Brilliance set. So I've cut a DL size card which measures 21 centimetres, so the I think I've got that right, let me measure. I always doubt myself when I give out numbers. Yes, so it's the width of A4, and then I've actually trimmed it to 20 centimetres and scored at 10, and that gives you the DL size card base. Now, with this card I used the larger size Designer Series paper, which is just over 30 centimetres or 12 inches, and I trimmed a piece down for that first layer. You can see that's just hiding underneath some vellum there. With the Butterfly Brilliance, let me just grab the Designer Series paper, you'll notice that it's a 6" by 6" stack, or 15 centimetres by 15 centimetres, and the design I wanted to use for that background is this one, and you can see it's too short. So what I've done is I've actually cut a piece in half, 7.5 by 7.5, and then I'm going to piece it together, and I'm going to look at the pieces, and I tried to look at the pieces to see if there was a pattern match, and there actually isn't, but then I just slid my pieces along to a point where I thought that they blended quite nicely, and I decided that that was about it. The patterns blend reasonably nicely there, so I'm actually going to do some piecing together. So I'm actually going to stick the two pieces down, but I will trim off that piece behind because that would be wasteful to leave it on. So what I'm going to do is very carefully, I'm going to take a seat now so I won't be able to see comments for a while. And excuse my squeaky chair, which I still haven't cured. Oh, and I cringe every time I move, so I'm going to try and stay quite still. So I'm actually going to very carefully, I'm noting this pattern here, and I'm going to very carefully just pop myself a pencil mark here and check it again, make sure that that's where I'm happy, around there, and making sure that that width will work with the card that I want to make. So if I trim off at this pencil mark that I've just made, and I'm just going to use scissors because you are not going to see the piece underneath. And this piece I can use on another project. So now let's glue those together. Let's have a look. I'm happy with that. I think that that matches, and I'm going to actually try and disguise the join. If you see where I've got some flowers on this card, I'm going to try and disguise that join using butterflies. So, and I wanted to show you my original card because I've had feedback while I've been talking about the butterflies and showcasing them with both friends and other demonstrators, that butterflies are not to everybody's taste. Who knew? I mean, I love butterflies and I love natural, anything to do with nature. So butterflies, dragonflies, any form of flowers, anything to do with the natural world. So I wasn't aware that not everybody loves butterflies as much as me, but I've had that feedback, so I thought if I showed you my original card, you will see that the layout, the size of cards, the layout is going to be pretty much the same, but I'm just using something different. So a different feature, image. So instead of flowers, I'm using butterflies. So instead of butterflies, you can use flowers. You could use something else. You could use a different kind of image. You could just use some leaves, or let me just think, I'm looking at my stamp sets now. You could use birds, whatever image you wanted to use. And let's just have a think about casing. So that is copying and sharing everything. So casing stands for copy and share everything, and we also use it in the crafting world to mean let's just copy a layout. You can copy a card faithfully in that you replicate it exactly as someone else has made it, or you can case a card because you love the layout and you love elements of the design. So casing is always really useful, especially when you run out of creative mojo, which we all do from time to time. In fact, I came to make this card last night and I felt quite blocked in terms of creativity, and I just ended up grabbing a stamp set. No, I didn't grab a stamp set. I grabbed some DSP that I'd not used enough of, which is the Peony Designer Series paper, and I decided to just colour in, just sit and colour in. It's one of my favourite things, and again, it's not everybody's favourite thing, and by colouring in I felt relaxed and I was enjoying my crafting, and then one thing led to another and I just started to cut the other elements and put it together. So I've cut myself a piece of vellum, and I've cut that to the width again of A4, that's 21, and I've just cut it in this way, in this, gosh, I can't speak today, I also come with sound sometimes. I've cut it just slightly narrower than the Designer Series paper underneath. And the reason I'm popping vellum over the top is just to mute the background even more, because I want the butterflies to be the main focal point, and also just to give it a kind of a romantic, whimsical look. Now I'm not going to stick that layer down just yet. I'm going to pop that to one side, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp the butterfly images, and we're going to talk a little bit about colouring in. See, I'm always open to feedback, and I listen to what people say, and some people love colouring in just like I do, and some people hate and detest colouring in. So I'm going to give you some tips about easy colouring, because we love stamping. I'm using StayzOn because I want to actually, well, actually, initially, you see, I'm making this up as I go along, because I made this card last night and I haven't made this card yet. So initially I thought, well, I could just watercolour in the butterflies. That's what I love to do. Just give me some ink and a water brush and a pot of water, and I am happy. I'm really inking this up with StayzOn because StayzOn dries very, very quickly, and the reason I'm using my stamparatus is so that I can go back and re-stamp, because I have a feeling that it's going to be pale, and this happens to me regularly when I use StayzOn. I need to ink twice, So with the Stamparatus, it's a stamp positioning tool, and it means that you can always stamp back in exactly the same. Although I think I've moved that. I've got a feeling that I've moved this, but let's go for it. We've always got an emergency side. Come on. Yeah, I did move it, so it's gone quite blurry. Let's try again on the emergency side. Do you know, it happens to us all. So this time I'm actually going to use 2 magnets. I'm going to place that down. That's me being lazy. I very rarely use both magnets for fear of them snapping together. Now I just need to... I've got full clearance of both magnets there. That's the other thing with StayzOn ink, is it's very sticky, and you saw how it lifted the paper. So let's go again. So I was saying why I'd chosen to use StayzOn, because I originally wanted to watercolour, and StayzOn is a permanent ink that allows you to water over the top without it smudging. Come on, magnet. I actually think I'm going to show you another technique for adding colour. I don't want this to lift up and move again. I think it has done. Do you know what? If this doesn't work this time, I'm going to switch out to Memento ink, because I've decided to use a different stamping colouring technique. You need to add quite a bit of pressure as well with StayzOn ink. Oh yes, look, we've gone. I'm going to abandon StayzOn for this. Oh, let's start again. Apologies everybody. It happens to all of us. If I'd have been here in my craft room on my own stamping this with StayzOn, I would have been directly over the stamp, and I would have been able to apply practically CPR type pressure to it, so I wouldn't have had all of those problems. And I also should have said I've chosen to use our shimmery white cardstock. So let me just move my Stamparatus out of the way. This is why I don't use 2 magnets, because the minute that they come together, I'll be in danger. So let's start again. It's real crafting, everyone. I'm going to trim down a piece of shimmery white cardstock, and I'm going to give myself enough. I'm throwing things all over the place now. I think that's the right width. Yep. And let's just change our ink. Let's bring back in the Stamparatus. Oh, these vicious magnets. Oh, this is such good demonstrating when I'm actually scared of the magnets. You can see how strong they are when you snap them down. And if they meet, they just snap together and you can't prise them apart. They're hilarious. Okay, so I'm going to change out my ink. I'm going to swap to Memento. Ordinarily, I would always tell you to clean this off first. It shouldn't matter in this instance because of the colouring I'm going to do. I'm hoping. Do you know, there was something this morning, I don't know what I was doing, and I thought, I just had a funny feeling that something was going to go really wrong this morning. Then I had a word with myself and I said, don't be so ridiculous, it'll be fine, everything's fine. I'm going to stamp again just to get the depth of colour. I really want it to be a nice strong outline, and that's much better. And you see this time, because the ink didn't stick and lift the cardstock up, I've managed to get a really nice stamp. And so I'm just having a look now. StayzOn is so sticky you can't use it. And now I will say something here, Sylvia. I've shied away from using StayzOn on with photopolymer stamps. With red rubber it usually behaves much better. And excuse squeaky chair, I think that was my ink pad. I have two StayzOn ink pads, and that was my StayzOn ink pad that actually does need re-inking. Now I didn't want to start re-inking live on air. I'm just popping my magnets under there out of harm's way, and I'm going to lift off my plate and lay that way and just pop my stamperators out of the way. So another benefit of the stamperators from Stampin' Up is that you can actually remove the leaves. Otherwise I'd have had to store it, move it out of the way, and that would have got ink all over my surface. I'm going to pop that out of the way, well out of harm's way, because that's my stamping done. Now I wanted to just show you, I was going to go ahead and do the full colouring in using inks and watercolouring techniques, which I absolutely love. Then I thought, you know what, not everybody loves colouring in that way. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to run this through the die cutting machine using the die from the set that cuts out the entire image. So I'm going to use this one. So I will just be back. Just look at this card for a moment. Rather than me moving my machine, which is just simply to the left of me, I will just quickly run it through while you gaze longingly at my other card that I made last night. Just taking my time to line it up because it is one full die. And I'll bring the plates across and show you when I've done it. Here we go. So you can see that the die cuts all of the butterflies individually, and I've just stuck the die down using a piece of washi tape just so it didn't move about. So I can pop that to one side and we'll deal with that later, but you can see it cuts out all of these beautiful butterflies individually. It's super. So let's take a breath and keep going. Keep calm, carry on. Now I'm going to bring in a piece of scrap paper to pop underneath my butterfly, and I think I want to use, on the card, I want to use 3 butterflies, and I think we'll go for those 3. I can't decide now. Let me just have a think of the sizes. I think we'll go for that one as my main butterfly. Just have a look and step them down a little. I think we'll go for those 3. Let's have a look. Now, of course, in the designer series paper we have this sheet, and that cuts, the die actually cuts out all of those butterflies individually. So you get 6 butterflies, and I've used 1 on a project that I'm going to share with you at the end. So if you really didn't like colouring in, you can just simply use the designer series paper and the dies, and you've already got your beautiful butterflies coloured in. But I wanted to share with you the stamp set and a really easy colouring technique. So I'm going to use Just Jade, Magenta Madness and Bumblebee, some really nice bright colours. And let's start with the smallest, this little tiddly one here. And I'm going to have that one in yellow, and I'm going to actually just use my blending brushes really simply to add some colour, and I'm just going to use my finger. Now you could ask me, why didn't you just stamp onto that coloured card and then die cut? But I wanted to stamp one image all at once onto the shimmery white card. It's got a slight shimmer, and just by using the blending brush and the ink, it adds it adds the colour really quickly, and I'm actually going to add a second colour to each butterfly right at the end. But you can see just how quickly I can work that colour onto each image. So my second colour is going to be Magenta Madness, and I'm just going to tap that. I'm just going to check without squeaking too much. Yes, you can see my ink pad. So I'm just going to tap that and just work it off. Just wanted to see how that was behaving. And just add that colour. And you can decide, you don't have to go for a really even colour, you can go for a patchy colour, a mottled colour. I can go for more colour right in the centre with the blending brushes. And for my third colour, let's just put that brush back. And I'll just close my ink pad, because the danger is today, the way I'm performing is that I'll put my elbow in it. Let's go for just Jade. And where's my third butterfly, that nice big one? And we'll go with just Jade. And we'll start in the middle, why don't we? Let's start in the middle. Because this is a larger butterfly, you can get the idea. I can go quite dark in the middle and then blend that out towards the outsides. Now what I can decide to do is I can add a second colour to this one, and why don't we pop some Magenta Madness to the tips of those wings, and again we'll just use the blending brush, and we can start off the project on the paper and blend inwards this time. And hopefully that's coming across on camera. And this butterfly will be our main focal point, this big one. And we'll just pop some ink to the tips. And a bit more on this side, I think. I'm just going to hold that up to the camera and hopefully that will focus. So even anyone who is not a massive fan of detailed colouring in can get some pretty colours pretty quickly onto their projects. I'm actually going to add some more colour onto this one, and onto this one I'm going to pop a little bit of pink to the tips of this one. And we'll just give that a bit of a glow on the edges. So simple, just a nice circular motion. I'm not really applying very much pressure, just fingertip pressure. These brushes are quite flexible, so you can actually back off with the pressure and hold the brush here, and that gives you a really light pressure, or you can hold them further down and apply a little bit of fingertip pressure, and it allows you to be reasonably precise. You can even use them for daubing around the edges instead of a sponge dauber. So quite a versatile tool. I think that one just needs a bit more pink on that edge. So now we've got two two-tone butterflies. Let's pop a bit more colour on this one, and let's go with some just Jade onto the tips of this butterfly. There we go. And I'm applying a little bit more pressure. I'm just going to move that so you can see that actually on the against the white. There we go. And again I can pick that up, and I can sort of daub around the edges. There we go. So 3 pretty butterflies, really simply coloured in using our new blending brushes. And just close my ink, pop that to one side for a moment. And I'll get rid of these pretty butterflies so that they're not confusing everything. Just pop those to one side. So now we've got our pretty butterflies. I actually I'm just looking at this one, I'm thinking the body looks a little bit pale. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to come in with basic grey marker, Stampin' Write marker, and I'm just going to very carefully just add a little bit of shading. Now the stamp actually has got some shading. I think that just gives it a bit more definition. The temptation might be to colour that body in solid, and it might not come across on camera too well, but I think it just looks better just shaded rather than solid. Okay, so we've got our butterflies. We can just pop our scrap to one side. Let's bring back in our card blank, and we can just start to lay those down and see what we think. We've definitely got some kind of structure going on there. Now I want to die cut a label, and I want to die cut this fancy lacy piece, and for that I'm using the Wild Rose dies there in the Annual Catalogue, and it's something that I've neglected for quite a while, and then I picked up this piece. I had a piece of scrap in my bits box. I've got a box on my desk full of bits. I don't know about anybody else, but I've got this box on my desk that's just full of bits and pieces that didn't quite make the final cut when I was trying to make cards. And I had a scrap piece in there that was die cut with this, and I thought, oh, I've forgotten about that die set, and it also has a lovely label. So I'm going to use, when you make your card base for a DL card, you actually cut off, you cut this to 20 centimetres, so you cut off just less than 10 centimetres from the piece of A4. So I'm going to bring that back in, and I'm actually going to cut a label, and I think I'm going to use a contrasting colour for this. I think I'm going to actually find a piece of Bumblebee in my scrap drawer, so you'll need to bear with me because I haven't got that out. In the meantime, I'm going to bring in, just thinking whether my mini machine, let's bring in the mini machine, and I'll just trim this down quickly. This is crafting on the hoof. I have prepared half of this project. Let's have a look. Let's bring in the mini machine, and let's just cut this label to start with. There we go. It's just a bit easier than lifting the big machine across. That's a really pretty label. I love this stitched effect. So we've now got a label to go with our card. And I'll leave my mini machine there while I just grab a piece of Bumblebee from my scrap box. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back with you. So I think I've shared with you before how I store my scrap pieces. So I have these plastic wallets with the zips at the top, and I have one for each colour family, and that's how I score. If I could speak, it would be marvellous. I'm actually going to get a piece of Magenta Madness out as well, because I'm going to decide which colour would look better. So I'm going to cut one of each, and I'm going to give you the choice. So again, we're cutting this pretty lacy piece. Oh, I'm just standing up for a moment and looking at comments, and I can see I have Michelle has joined us. Hello, Michelle. Apologies, I'm not just looking at comments all the time while I'm sitting. So let's whiz that through the mini machine. And let's have a look. So we've got a piece of magenta, madness, and if I just pop all those bits in the bin, well, nearly all those bits in the bin, and let's cut one of those with Bumblebee, and we will see which looks best, and I'll put it to the vote. Fastest typist wins. But let's lay it down on the project first. Just pop the machine to one side. I'll just pop that out. Now sometimes if you have a lacy piece, if you just give your die a quick flex, it helps it to release. And all these bits everywhere. Let's get those in the bin. Marvellous. Okay, let me take a seat again. Let's lay this out and see which of those colours we prefer. So if we're going to have a label about here, we're going to have our butterflies somewhere over here, not necessarily in this order, but something like this. Which colour looks best? Would it be Bumblebee? If I just pop that there, that's roughly. So let's have a look at that. And then I'll pop Magenta Madness under, and then I'll let you decide. So there's Bumblebee. And let's have a look at Magenta Madness under there. Okay. And I'll stand up. Pink. Okay. Alison and Sylvia both say Magenta Madness. Let's go with Magenta Madness. So there's one for the scrap box. Coming soon to a project near you, or not, as the case may be. So now you can see this project's coming together. If we look at my original, hoping that's still on in the shot, and we've got the colourful butterflies, and you can see how it's going to come together. So let's go ahead and start to stick it down. I'm going to stamp a sentiment on here, and as I'm going to make this card for Mother's Day, I've got hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day sentiment, and that's from the Welcoming Windows stamp set that I used a couple of Facebook lives ago. So if you didn't watch that Facebook live or that video, that's where the sentiment's from. And I'm going to stamp it in Memento, which I've just automatically been a tidy girl and put straight away back on the shelf. So I'm taking note that I want my sentiment to be bottom left hand side of this label. So let's just tap tap tap, and I'm going to just test. I'm not sure whether I stamped using this stamp previously. Sometimes when your photopolymer stamps are brand new or not been used before, it's almost like you need to prime them and get them going with ink. And I am just going to move this towards me, so apologies if my forehead just comes into shot. I'm hoping that's somewhere near straight. It's good enough for today. After my earlier performance, I think we'll call that happy. So now I need to start to stick everything together. So you'll remember all I've done so far is stick my pieced piece of Designer Series paper down on the base card. Now I need to stick down my vellum, and a question I get asked quite a lot is, what glue do you use to stick down vellum? Well, I use whatever glue I can hide. If you look at my original card, you'll see that it's actually only stuck down in the middle, and yet it still looks absolutely gorgeous. That's because I've been able to hide underneath this main design the glue. So I know that I'm going to have a design in the middle, so I know I can put some glue underneath. And actually my glue of choice for sticking this down is going to be Stampin' Seal today, just for a bit of speed. So I'm going to just run 2 or 3 lines of Stampin' Seal across right in the middle and I can lay down my piece of vellum, and I'm taking care just to get it centered and straight. There we are. So that's now anchored, but just in the middle, and I can start to begin my layering. And you'll see that the next piece I need to put down is my, I don't know what to call this, trellis, lace. I think I'd quite like a reasonable amount of that showing. I've not got quite as much on this one. Let's just pull that down a bit, and we'll just roughly lay the butterflies back down. Now I wanted those butterflies, if you remember, to hide that join, so let's move everything across a bit and just make sure that we're still hiding any join. And we'll go something like that. So the next thing I'm going to do is come back in. I'm going to hold my lacy piece. It's pretty much central, so I'm going to use Stampin' Seal again, but this time I'm going to put it again. Let me just advance that. A strip there, and that's simply to hold that piece down, and when I stick this piece down, that will hold it even more, because it's not very stuck very strongly at the moment, but the minute I put some glue on the back of this, that will help to anchor through the lacy piece. So let's pop some more Stampin' Seal on the back of here. Now sometimes with Stampin' Seal you have to just advance the tape roller, it wants to spring back inside. That's it. There we go. Oh, and I will give you a tip if you don't stick. I'll give you a tip. Don't give a tip in the middle of doing something. If you've bought Stampin' Seal and you've used a whole roll of Stampin' Seal and you've just bought a refill, don't throw this piece away. This piece doesn't come with the refill. The refill is just this piece in the middle. So you keep the clamshell and you keep the actual, I want to call it a nozzle, and of course it's not a nozzle, the roller tip cover doesn't come with the refill, and I very nearly popped mine in the bin, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to just check in the refill whether it has a cover, and it didn't, so please don't throw your covers away. Now I'm going to make these butterflies have a bit of life, so I'm going to just take my bone folder and I'm going to just gently, you can see if I hold that to the camera, just curl those wings a little bit just on the tips, and I'm going to just pop my thumbnail at either side of the body and just make that. Of course it will squish in the envelope, but just by curling the wings, that's giving it a bit of life. And I will stick the big one down first. I'm going to stick it, remember that line, that join line is there. It's almost disappeared anyway. So I'm going to stick the big one down first, I think. Let's just curl them all. And let's just see how they work together. Works quite nicely, yes. So I will stick that big one down, and we're going to just use a bit of multi-purpose liquid glue just down the middle of the body. I just have that one there. I'm taking care not to have the tip of the wing protruding outside the card. I'm also taking care to try and see that we've covered that join. You can see I've just popped that tombow on that crease in the body. Now let's have a look. I'll just have that little one there. I quite like like just to vary the angle so it looks like a fluttering of butterflies. There must be a collective. What is the collective noun for butterflies? Is it a flutter of butterflies? So we're nearly done. We need some ribbon and we need some embellishments. So I have got Magenta Madness ribbon and I have got just jade ribbon, and it just so happens I actually have Bumblebee. So shall we pick up the colour of this and go with Bumblebee, or shall we stick with the theme and have Magenta Madness? I think we might stick with the theme, although I've asked the question, has anyone answered? What about ribbon? Ribbon, ribbon. I'm just seeing if I get a comment. While I'm looking for it, while I'm waiting for a comment, I'm actually just going to get my box of bling and I'm going to find some sequins. I think that this one might suit some sequins. So, pink ribbon. Sylvia's fastest. She's got the fastest keyboard in the West, even though she's in the Northeast. Now, I tied a double bow for this one. Let's see if I can tie a double bow for this one. I used the round the fingers method. So I brought the ribbon across and I went round once and I went round twice and then I cut off a tail. Let's see if I can do this on air. Oh, if I do this on air, I might celebrate with a hot cross bun. Then I take one finger out, usually, and I pull this tail through. I don't know if you can see that. You really need to have sound effects and very nimble fingers. So now I've got two tails down here and I'm aiming to tie that in a knot. It's astonishing that I can do this off air so quickly and easily, and then the minute you come on air, try and do it. Ooh, there we go. So I've tied this bow and I'm just going to try and pull that tight. There we go. So I've got a double bow. Oh, something like that. That's that way round, that way round. It's something like a double bow anyway. Pull those tails down. So just to recap, I used 3 fingers and I have a tail laying down here. And you can leave that tail as long as you like, and you go around once, twice, and then have another tail here. You then take one finger out and spread these, and then you put pass one tail through and one tail to the end and tie them in a knot. Simple. It's dead easy really, isn't it, that? Don't know why you all don't do that every day. I'm being cheeky now. So I'm going to pop that bow down here. It could probably have done with being a bit smaller actually. We seem to be obscuring this butterfly. Unless I try and move that butterfly up a bit. Don't try this at home, because I've only stuck in with Tombow in the middle. If I just move that butterfly up a bit, I'll get my bow on there. That's super. And I'm going to use a glue dot. Now I saw a thread this morning about somebody was asking in a forum about the glue dots. Are they not as sticky as they used to be? And my answer was no, they're perfectly as sticky as they used to be. It's just that it's winter, and when these glue dots are cold, they're not as sticky. So if it is cold in your craft room, have a look where your glue dot is and just give it some love. Just give it a bit of warmth, and warming that glue dot up, it will be just as sticky. And I'm going to pop that down on my project rather than on my ribbon. There we go. And I'm going to trim those ends off. As my lovely friend Helen always says, we need to have nice angled bits of ribbon at the end of our bows. And let's put some bling on. Let's chuck everything at it. We've got die cut pieces, we've got ribbon. Let's have some of these sequins. Now these are from the, oh, I had it then and it's gone, Artistry Blooms sequins set, and I have used these so much, and they're still, I'm still on my first packet, and these colours just seem to go with everything. So if I pick this colour, it seems to pick up the magenta madness really well. If I pick this colour, it seems to pick out the yellow really well, and even this colour, which I think is meant to be Calypso Coral, still seems to tone in with the pink shades. So I've used them so much, and I'm going to actually go with I think I'm going to go with 5. Let's chuck it on. Let's just have, I'm going to use the tip of my snips. Let's put one there. Let's have one over here somewhere. I'll even have one on there, I think. Let's have a couple of yellow ones. I'm really going overboard with the bling today. Let's bling it up. Oh, I keep feeling like I'm headbutting the camera. I hope I'm not. There we are. So, what do you think? Original, floral, cased butterflies, same but different. You would not expect anything less, would you? Oh, I'm even laughing at myself now, but I just want to point out and just remind us what we've done. So on this card we used a piece of designer series paper in one piece, because this was the large size 12" by 12". On this card I wanted to stick with the DL size, but because our designer series paper was shorter, I needed to piece it together. So I've used the vellum and the images to carefully hide the join, very carefully. And if you're using plenty of layers, oh, and hopefully you can see that shimmery white cardstock is shimmering. And if we wanted even more shimmer, we could use Wink of Stella across those butterflies' wings. And I hope you enjoyed the easy how to colour your butterflies really easily using the blending brushes. So even the those crafters who absolutely hate colouring in detail, or having to think about the technique for blending with blender pens or watercolouring with watercolours, it's a really quick and easy way of getting some fantastic rainbows of colours onto your projects. Now, I said I had a second project to share with you. Well, here we are. If we wanted to give a gift, either for Mother's Day or a birthday, I've used the designer series paper to decorate this plain white wooden coat hanger. Now, I pick these up whenever they have them in Aldi down that central aisle, or if we get a trip to IKEA, you can buy them in packs. So this is how it started out. It's a white painted wooden coat hanger. It's got the trouser hanger with the rubberized grip on, and I've done no preparation to the hanger whatsoever. I've not prepped it with anything, I've not sanded it, I've not painted it, I've done nothing to it. The only thing I've used is the designer series paper from the pack, and I've used the one with the small butterflies, and I just spent some time fussy cutting ever so many of these little butterflies out until I had a little pile of small butterflies. I didn't even, and I'm going to try and find the piece that was left. Let me just lay that one down while I have a flick through. I didn't even take any time fussy cutting. So let's go, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's just go with this corner section here where we can trim off the part butterflies, and let's just cut out this pink one. I really didn't take any time fussy cutting in any detail because the coat hanger is white and the surrounding piece of the designer series paper is white, and so you can just quite roughly fussy cut your butterflies into individuals. So I did that. I just spent about, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes fussy cutting until I'd actually done quite a lot. Now, I experimented on this coat hanger using both Tombow glue and Mod Podge. Now, some of you will know Mod Podge as a product. Order it online or buy it from your craft stores when they open. It's a water-based sealer, glue and finish, and it's used a lot in decoupage work. And I found that because this designer series paper is quite thick, it's the nice substantial thick designer series paper, you actually need quite a bit of Mod Podge to get the butterflies to become pliable to actually stick around the coat hanger. So that's the bit that took the time, was actually spending the time, and I used a sponge, and I'm looking around frantically for it. Oh, it's here in my pot. So I actually labelled this one up with a piece of green cardstock, so I know that I've used this one with Mod Podge, and I used these sponges with Tombow glue. Now I will say Tombow glue sticks the butterflies better than Mod Podge, so the adhesiveness of Tombow is better. However, Tombow glue does not dry to a completely dry finish, and I think I can't really illustrate it here, but you might be able to see where the Tombow seeped out and it's left a sticky residue because it doesn't dry entirely clear. Now I can remove that using my adhesive rubber, and I can also remove that using a wet cloth, and I've got an old flannel. I use these a lot in my in-person classes. I don't use wet wipes, and I could carefully remove that sticky residue just with some warm soapy water. So Mod Podge is probably the best for finishing. So if you're very careful with your Tombow and you don't squidge it out underneath, and don't use the sponge to apply it, but with Mod Podge you can actually literally squidge a big blob of it onto the back, and you can squidge a big blob over the front, and you can press it down, and it will actually give the image a finish, a nice waterproof finish. So that's a long-winded way of saying it's really easy to stick the images from designer series paper onto a coat hanger. And I made the hanging butterfly very simply by die cutting 2 pieces of thick Whisper White and sticking them together. So let's make this one together. So it's quite simple, and you don't have to be too precise with your glue, just enough to sandwich 2 pieces of Whisper White thick or basic white thick cardstock is our new white. So stick them together for thickness, and then I die cut the butterflies from the designer series paper, and butterfly of your choice. Obviously match it up with the correct die, and that just builds it up by using 2 pieces of thick cardstock, and you could use more. It just builds it up into a slightly thicker piece. And then I used my hole punch and I popped a hole in the top. Use some twine, very simple. Double up a piece of twine and pop that through. Of course, it's always harder when you're live on air. Where's my pokey tool? Let's poke that through. Little piece of twine just doubled up. And then I simply just tied a knot in the top. Trim the ends neatly, and then I simply pop that through goodness sake. Pop that over the neck of the coat hanger, and then I tied a double lot of ribbon around, just 2 different colours. That makes quite a pretty coat hanger, and that could be used. I have one of these that I decorated a good 2 or 3 years ago with designer series paper to match the decor in my bedroom, and I actually just have it hanging on the side of my wardrobe in my bedroom just as a fancy piece. But you could use it if you've bought somebody a nice top, or if you know somebody who loves clothes. You can even go as far as really personalising. If you've got an alphabet stamp set and you can stamp their name, or you can do a label with their name on, and you can really personalise these as a pretty gift. Very simple, and actually very inexpensive. I'm just going to take to my feet. Oh look, Mum says she likes the butterfly card best. Who would have known that when it was Mum saying that she didn't like butterflies? Thank you, Mum. Let me just pop these in the middle, then you can see. So I hope that you think that together might make a nice gift and card combination. But really, with these plain wooden coat hangers that you can pick up very cheaply, particularly if Aldi have them in that middle aisle, you can really go to town and decorate them in lots of different ways. You can even stamp onto them. If you're careful with your StayzOn and you have a steady hand, you can even stamp images onto these. You do need to be careful, and you do need to have a steady hand, and I'm just going to see if I can find a suitable little stamp to show you. I'll be brave. Let me see. How about a little tiny Dixie flower? Are you still watching me? I hope you've not gone away anywhere while I just rummage through my stamp sets. I'm just looking for a Dixie flower. Well, there's a small flower in this stamp set. Okay. There's a little flower there. That's in the Free as a Bird stamp set. It was the one that just jumped out quickest. So I've got a little flower. Let's give the StayzOn a second reprieve, shall we? Shall we give it another go? And I will just sit down for this. I'll just move my card out of the way. I'll just find a space on the coat hanger. How about here? And I'll just stamp that up. Now very carefully. Stamp a flower. Now I'm going to have to do some more because it's going to look odd. There's just one. There we go. StayzOn has reprieved itself. Wherever we see a gap, now I'm going to have to fill in with a flower. And let's see if we can do one that goes around the corner. Careful. There we go. So there you go. You can stamp on this surface as well. You'd need to use StayzOn, so you would be limited to black. And because you're using StayzOn, you would not be able to colour in using your alcohol blend. So it would need to be that the image that you're stamping, you would have to be happy with black. A black image. So hopefully you've enjoyed that demonstration of card and coat hanger combo. And oh, what's just pixelated? Let's just have a look. Am I unpixelating now? Do you know what? It might sort itself out. Last week I had such a stress because my whole video initially looked like it was pixelated, and then I went to bed and the next morning it was fine. It might be because I was going fast, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to come back round and just say goodbye. So let me just flip my camera back round and take a seat on the squeaky chair. Thank you, Sylvia. And take my glasses off, and let me just flip you right round. Hello, it's me, I'm here. Well, I hope you enjoyed that demonstration. Let's recap. So we've talked a bit about casing, so copying and sharing, or just casing the layout. We've talked a bit about how to piece together your designer series paper when it doesn't quite fit the project. And hopefully I've inspired you, which is my aim, to get your hands on the Butterfly Brilliance early release products, remembering that the designer series paper is only available while stocks last, and it won't be in the annual catalogue when that goes live in May. The stamp set and dies will carry over, but of course you'll want to get yours now because they're available from today. So if you do want to, you can shop online at my store. You can message me if you're local and place an order. And until next time, I wish you all well. I want you to stay safe. I want you to stay happy. But most of all, I want you to keep crafting. Thanks for joining me again. Bye for now.